In this video, I'm going to run you through everything that I've learned in my current entrepreneurial journey as a 26-year-old entrepreneur, how I've gotten to the point of running consumer apps, starting as a creator, and the whole process going from A to Z, everything I've learned, and hopefully you'll get some value out of it. Okay, so to start off, I was actually playing college basketball and junior college, not like real college. And I ended up hurting my back. I got an L5 pars defect, so I broke my back. Not good. Don't recommend doing that ever. But I was basically bedridden. But this happened in 2018, which if you know anything about 2018, is basically when Fortnite popped off and went crazy. And so I went out and bought a PC the next day when I got my MRI back that it was positive for that fracture. And I stopped playing basketball because couldn't do anything. And I started grinding Fortnite. Because in my mind, I knew that I wanted to do something that would essentially get me out of the rat race, just like everyone wants to do. And I believed, because of my prior experience with gaming, that I could learn things quickly, I could work really hard, and I had all the time in the world now and singular focus. So it was a perfect recipe for me to try it. And about a year in, I had my first pro event. It was WSOE 3 in California, Redondo Beach. A lot of the pros were there, like Myth, Hamlin's, God, I don't even remember all the guys now, like K-Sid, a lot of these guys. I don't really remember them, but yeah, those were the guys that were there, pros. It was my first pro event. It was great. So I did that, kind of accomplished that goal. I played for another year and a half. I played World Cup, and I got like 62nd or 3rd or something like that in solos in World Cup qualifiers, the grand finals, for not the grand finals, but the finals to qualify for the grand finals, which in North America, like 63rd was pretty good. I had a few other like top 100 placements, but I never cracked like the top 10, which is what you needed to do. So basically I ended up moving on from Fortnite, and I only had 2 years left of college, so I transferred to Clemson. And Clemson was like, I didn't really want to go, but I just had nothing better to do. So I was doing that and still gaming a lot. And it wasn't until I actually was dating this girl and I broke up with her that I decided that I wanted to do like 75 hard and get into good shape. So I did 75 hard and I started posting it on TikTok. And that was the first time where I was like, okay, I'm in good shape. I run and lift every day. Been doing it for months. And that's pretty much what I did. And so I started growing a little bit, and I signed a deal at the end of my first year with a company called Whoop. And it was a UGC deal. And that deal was $3,750 per month for 6 months. And that was my first intro into UGC as a content creator. And at this time, I was averaging maybe 3K views a video, 5K views, nothing crazy. And I also was, what was I gonna say? I was making, 5 videos a month for them for $750 per video on average. My UGC videos were $1,000 each. My sponsored posts were $500 each. And so there was like 2 or 3 of each of them. So it was $3,750 a month, right? So that's basically how that was going, and it was good. I started working with other brands, building out my portfolio, signing other UGC deals, and I worked with a lot of different fitness brands, and it was fun. I also started growing on TikTok more so at this point. So instead of just niching myself down into the fitness realm, I started going out and doing more storytelling, just, talking about things that I'm witnessing in my life, things that were going on, and learning about how to grow as a creator, actually. And so it was during this time where I started growing and popping off a little bit. I was averaging like 20, 40 million views a month, which was pretty good for like a 2-3 month span there. And essentially, I kind of went through a little bit of a social media breakup online, and, it kind of put a bad taste in my mouth for content. And so I was like, well, listen, my skill set is content. I've been doing it full time now for 6 months or a year. How do I monetize this further without actually being the creator? So I took a big step back. I stopped doing brand deals and I started running an agency. So the UGC agency model is essentially me going to a brand or business and telling them, hey, I will get you, X amount of creators posting Y times per month. So I would get them, let's say, 300 videos a month for 5 creators posting 2 times a day. And I would tell them that's going to cost about $15K for the brand. And 3-month contract, like they're like, okay, cool, we'll pay it. That's kind of what I've been doing. Like that's like the main thing. And I did that for a while, but I started needing more and more creators. And so I started with my friends that were good creators, but then I needed more. And the issue was I was paying these creators a lot of money, and some of them just weren't that good, and the brands weren't happy with them. So I was like, how do I get good creators? And what I decided to do was build my own coaching program. And so this way I could train creators exactly how I wanted to, and they would also pay for access to it. So they were more bought in with the deals that I would give them, because they've paid for learning and experience and ultimately job deals, creator deals, which is more than they can save probably for most people for college. Most people probably go to college and don't get anything. So I built a program where people were learning how to become content creators, paying me for it, and then they would get deals on the back end. It worked pretty well, but a lot of creators ultimately still weren't quite what a lot of brands were looking for. Let's say I signed 3 new deals in a month as an agency, and those deals are like, AI note takers, which is what I worked with primarily. Like I've worked with a lot of them. And I'm signing people that are fitness creators. And like, hey, I want to work with Whoop. It's like, dude, like you're not LeBron James, like Whoop is actually a hard deal to get. You can't just get it. So we had just like disagreements and so the community is not that great. But the people that have stayed that are good creators, I absolutely love. And so it's kind of that dichotomy of just who you're going to work with. And so what I ended up doing was scaling down my sales process in the community. I used to have sales manager, closers, setters. I've had multiple. I've had like 6 or 7 people selling for me at one time, trying to scale. The best month we did with the community was like $78K a month or something, or in a month. And that's not like incredible, but it was all organic, no ads being ran other than like a small follow ad at like $50 a day or something. So, essentially I learned that info can be good, coaching can be good, but I don't really think it's the end all be all sort of thing. Not for me. But during this time, what ended up happening is I was working with these apps like Minutes AI, TurboLearn, and I'm not saying that I drove all their results. I did not. That would be inaccurate for me to say I drove all these results for these businesses that are doing $500K a month, over $1 million a month, whatever it is. But I did help them source creators, and I did learn the entire process doing that. And so what ended up happening is I got asked by this guy, Hamza Dubaisi. Al-Dubaisi, I believe is his last name. Hamza, if I fucked that up, I'm sorry. But basically he saw me on Twitter, was like, yo, like we're hiring for a creative director role. It's equity. Are you interested? He sold me hard and I was so interested. So I was like, yes, let's do it. Sounds good. And it was for a ADHD app and it was great. Like I loved it. It was a web app. I still use it occasionally. And basically Hamza was like, you're pretty good at this. Can you build us a creator team? So I built a creator team. And so basically I learned the back end of like running like a software app business from a creator standpoint. So I had like all these like little knowledge buckets kind of coming together. And then I saw Blake Anderson tweet out that he was hiring a creator manager for equity plus salary for an app. And he said, message this guy who's the main founder if you want to interview. So I interviewed, talked to both of them, went great. So I started working on that app next. I got equity in it plus like a salary. Now I ended up disregarding my salary so that we could pay creators more because I was running my own agency and the community at the time. So I wasn't chiefly concerned with money, and I actually never am, which kind of hurts me sometimes. Like I would be way better off if I really did care about money, but I promise you I don't. It's kind of a means to an end sort of thing. And I'll be donating a lot of my money eventually. Anyways, so did that, learned a lot, working with Blake Anderson and that team, Quinn Slocum, a few other guys, really small. Like I got a quick MBA in like running a consumer app from working with them. Blake would look over my creator picks, angles we're using, hooks and stuff like that. And honestly, we didn't do that well. I think we did like 4K MRR the first month. But Blake essentially gave me a lot of feedback, which was great. So yeah, I got to learn all of that stuff. And what I learned essentially was, hey, instead of 10%, equity in this app, I could probably go start my own. So that's the next thing I did is I asked my friend who's the founder of one of the apps that I've worked with before that did really well. I was like, hey, I want to run my own app. Do you know any developers that would be interested in running an app with me? And so he introduced me to my co-founder from my Bible app, Covenant. And so we launched Covenant. and we expected big things, and it did not really do that well. It kind of sits around 2K MRR. It kind of got up to like 3K MRR, and that was with the weekly subscription. So one thing we could do, I suppose, would be to have different paywalls, and we should have tested all that. But regardless, the fact of the matter is we never got the downloads that we really wanted. We're getting like maybe 2-3K downloads a month. I have to check on that, but essentially you should be able to get 2-3K downloads per day if you're doing UGC and influencer marketing right. And we just weren't. And so we got the best creators. Like I promise you, my creators were unreal. I went to SideShift directly because I'm friends with those guys, and I said, I need your 3 best creators on the platform. I'm not going to say their names, but they're people you probably recognize. I worked with them directly for the Bible app, and their views were getting throttled. And I'm not making excuses or saying, that it wasn't out of my hands, because there's definitely things we could have done, and there's definitely Bible apps that are successful and all of those things. But what I ultimately learned was, being 50-50 with my developer co-founder was not quite enough for me personally. I kind of wanted more decision-making ability. So, I like the app, but it didn't fit completely aligned. I mean, as you can tell, my entire career has been on social media or content or gaming, like things like that. So building the Bible app was actually not a one-to-one thing. And I am a Christian, and I have a Bible here, and I have a Bible behind me on my desk, and I do read the Bible often. I try to. And when you wake up in the morning, you read your Bible, and you go to bed and you read your Bible before you go to bed, you're gonna be better off as a human being. Like I firmly believe that. But building the Bible app didn't necessarily translate into what was best for me. And what's gonna happen is if you go through this process yourself, it's kind of rough, So you're gonna have ups and downs essentially. And so that's what I learned was maybe the Bible app just isn't for me. So when I kind of had that realization, understanding, I didn't spend a second longer. I left it, and I sold my stake in it to my co-founder, so now he owns all of it, and I moved on to my next app. And I'm not going to talk too much about this one, but what I've done differently, like what I've learned from all of this, is you need a designer. First of all, you shouldn't be a developer, and a marketer is not enough. Design is actually extremely important. I learned about building with React Native versus Swift, learned about Supabase versus Firebase, and obviously there's a lot more that goes into it, but essentially what I've really learned is that you need to build a product backwards from the actual market fit. So in startup world or tech world, there's this concept of product market fit, PMF. And I think what I've learned is that you actually want to build backwards from videos that already go viral so that you can just plug in an app or a product into it based off of that viral concept. So let's say a viral hook is something like, SideShift blew up recently doing this. They had UGC creators making hooks like, is anyone getting a job right now? I just can't get a job. I go to Yale. I have a 4.0. I'm an econ student. Sorry, I live in Florida. I hear econ all the time. Is there anything that you guys are doing to get jobs? Like, I just can't. I'm struggling so bad, and sharing that pain point that people are feeling and relating to, and then being like, I did find a couple like small side hustles on SideShift, and that's been good for me. Like, I got a couple small deals there, so it kind of allows me to pay bills and stuff. But I just can't. I don't know what to do, and that is like such good UGC, right? And so SideShift built their product first and then made UGC like that. But I think if you're starting from zero, why not start from the videos that are already going viral? If you scroll the For You page, you essentially have a catalog of the most viral trending videos currently going on in the world. And if you can find a hook that's repeatable, where it's like, wow, this hook is great and this thing's going viral, and you can take that and send it to creators and have them remake it, and then just integrate your product into the back end, or think of a product that could be integrated to solve the solution of a viral thing, that is what you should really do. And so with this new app, we have 100 people on trial right now, and I'm not sure on the exact churn number, but I'm barely seeing people churn. Versus the Bible app, people were churning like crazy. I'm not entirely sure why that is, but it's been literally amazing for us, and we're building great MRR without even, I'm not even pushing it on my own pages. My co-founder's not really pushing it. He's only put out one video. Our UGC creator accounts are not even like warm yet. It's just, we let our creator communities test it, and they love it. So creators that we gave access to are like, yo, this is great. This product actually works. Like we're getting improvements here. We're getting good feedback. I use this. I have people tell me they use it every day. And so, but we built that product based on what we knew could go viral, because that is such a great filter for what people are struggling and relating to. Because the core concept of virality is that it's very relatable and shareable. So if you see something on social media that's a trend or it's very viral, then there's a product that can be built off that. And so there's this concept of, you shouldn't just add a bunch of features until your product is like validated and everything. Your concept should be validated based off the content that you're seeing, right? Like that's how I've been thinking about it recently. And so far it seems to be working, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but that seems to be what I've learned the most from all of this. And I can go into the details about coaching and why it's not a good idea and all that stuff. Sam Millsop recently, yesterday, kind of got exposed for not paying his sales teams out. I don't know the whole story. It's two sides to every story, but essentially it looked like he was in rough shape financially, despite like flexing like he has the best life ever. Again, I don't want to bag on the guy. Like, we all kind of go through different things. I'm sure there's many things that I don't know about him or things that are tough. And, if I'm going to put a video like this out there, I've been bashed by people that never gave me a second chance. Like that what I talked about earlier when I, had a social media breakup, I had people with millions of followers calling me like the worst shit ever. And they literally had no idea what actually happened in that relationship, and I've forgiven those people, but I'm not going to get on here and tell Sam or talk about something like that when I really don't know all that much about it. I can just infer that coaching is not a good business model, even if you do have a massive personal brand, because of things like chargebacks, hard to fulfill a lot of people, meeting expectations when people are paying you that much money, especially people that can't really afford it, but are betting their house on you. Like I just don't think it's a great business model. I think if you should do what Steve Jobs does. The best entrepreneurs in the world, what do? They usually sell to consumers. Usually. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's different markets and stuff, but if you really talk about people that people look up to, it's guys like Jobs, right? Or Gates or Dyson, the founder of Cane's Chicken, Raising Cane's. Like, making great products that people love, that are low cost, scalable consumer-ish products. That is what I think you should be building versus coaching. And, I've used coaching. I've used the agency to get cash flow to the point where I can build products like this. And, I've burned a lot of money paying for mentorships and all that stuff as well. There is value there, but in my honest opinion, the true value is in building and kind of going through it yourself and understanding it's kind of a 5-year process. Anyone who tells you other than that is complete bullshitting. Now, I can make people money right away. First month, if someone pays me money today and says, I want to do UGC, I'll get you a brand deal today. I've done that hundreds of times, literally. But that doesn't mean that, that's not the end goal that people want, is to make a few $1,000s a month with content, right? It's a 5-year process to get to the point where you can generate hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, if something is given hastily by God, it can also be taken. It's usually not stewarded well. So these are all just things I've learned and I've seen in the space. And I hope it helps someone out there in terms of storytelling and all of that. So that's pretty much what I'm doing. Hope it helps. Again, I'll be putting out more info on the app and stuff soon. We have such a good team behind it, and I'm just so happy so far with it, and I'm excited to see how it grows. So hope this helps. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.